Week 1 is in the books. A lot of you guys did well. Some of you did not. This is our first power rankings on Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. On today's show is the power rankings in the Big 12. They are up to date. We'll also talk about what I loved the most about this week and recap my trip to both Rice-Eccles Stadium and Lavelle Edwards in Utah, catching 2 Big 12 teams this weekend. Who else in the Big 12 podcast world is doing that? If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. Without further ado, number 1 in this week's Locked On Big 12 Power Rankings, the Utah Utes. It is unequivocal. They are the best team in the Big 12. When I tell you Rice-Eccles Stadium wasn't that loud. Wasn't that crazy? They were playing an FCS school on a Thursday night. Drake, what are you talking about? Come back for the Baylor game. It's going to be a whole lot better. Number 2, the Kansas Jayhawks. Jalen Daniels wasn't elite against Lindenwood. His team still won. I find the Kansas defense was quite impressive, and the offense did exactly what they needed to do. I still think they're one of the top 2, if not 3, most talented teams in the Big 12. Oklahoma State at 3. This is because of how dominant they were against the number 1 team in the FCS, who very well could have upset them. I love what the Cowboys showcased. Alan Bowman with 3 touchdowns on the weekend as well. Number 4, Kansas State. The Wildcats. They took care of business against UT Martin. This is a game you're not going to hear a lot about, but DJ Giddens on just 13 carries, 124 yards. If that doesn't scare you in conference play, I don't know what will. Speaking of scare you, number 5, Arizona. Oh my gosh. The most impressive performance, not just in the Big 12 this weekend, but maybe in the Big 12, definitely in the Big 12, in years, was Noah Fafita, starring for Arizona and becoming a name that you have to know in conference play this year, and proving that between T-Mac and Noah Fafita, that offense might be the best in the Big 12. That 1-game sample size. Are they the best in the Big 12? I can't confidently say yes, but it's certainly possible after you have a wide receiver and quarterback combined for what they did, with Fafita throwing for 422 and Tet McMillan 304 yards receiving. At number 6, the UCF Knights. Talk about taking care of business. Again, KJ Jefferson to me, not elite. Anybody who watched this game would know his arm was not elite. His legs are good. RJ Harvey is good. The running attack as a whole from UCF is good. That Thursday night game, the defense was elite. Hampshire find a way to get it done. 28 points in the third quarter. Could have been worse. The Dogs were called off. UCF, very good. You land at 6 this week. UCF ahead of Iowa State, who is at 7. Yeah, can't move them up too much. 21-3 is your final score. You did what you were supposed to do and won the ball game. You get to land at 7 after winning against North Dakota. 21-3 is not great. TCU at 8, a road win against Stanford. I struggled to not put TCU above Iowa State, but I do think Iowa State is still the better football team if those two squared off today. Number 1, Utah. Number 2, Kansas. Number 3, Oklahoma State. Number 4, Kansas State. Number 5, Arizona. 6, UCF. 7, Iowa State. 8, TCU in this week's power rankings. At 9, West Virginia. I still think West Virginia is good. They're number 9 because they lost. Number 10, Arizona State. The reason West Virginia is above Arizona State, because, again, I think if they squared off tomorrow, West Virginia would win. And while I had Arizona State in my bottom 3 in the Big 12, what an impressive win against Wyoming, blowing Wyoming out of the water. Number 10, Arizona State. Now, they get 10, and BYU gets 11 because BYU did not beat an FBS opponent. BYU beat the Salukis of SIU from the FCS level. A good win? Sure. A top 10 team? Not yet. BYU at 11, that's where I had them preseason. I like where you sit. I'm impressed with you. You impressed me in that game. I still can't put you above Arizona State or above West Virginia because I think a head-to-head against West Virginia is a loss. Same case goes for Baylor at 12. What? Colorado? Haven't gotten there yet. That's right. Not yet. Baylor at 12. DeQuan Finn looked good. Not consistently elite. The offensive line still has question marks. Defense solid for the Bears. 13, Colorado. Wait a second. Colorado, they won against North Dakota State. North Dakota State's not what they usually are. Colorado gets the win. I'm going to give you credit for that. Still at 13. I don't know if he beat Baylor. I don't know if he beat BYU. Not the BYU that I saw on Saturday. 14, Texas Tech. Bad. Just really, really bad, dude. 1 point win in overtime against Abilene Christian. Not good. 15, Cincinnati. 16, Houston. Comfortable with those picks. Don't think that I would change anything there at the bottom. Houston gets the brakes beat off of them. Since he beats Towson 38-20, was impressed with Soars being that win. However, I still think you lose to Texas Tech or Colorado. Let's go through them again. Number 1, Utah. Number 2, Kansas. Number 3, Oklahoma State. Number 4, Kansas State. 5, Arizona. 6, UCF. 7, Iowa State. 8, TCU. 9, West Virginia. At number 10, Arizona State. 11, BYU. 12, Baylor. 13, Colorado. 14, Texas Tech. 15, Cincinnati. And number 16, Houston. What would you change? Put it in the comments on Locked On Big 12. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to all UConn folks by our friends over at Ultimate GM. Ultimate GM is where I go, dude, because now on an offline game, I can become a head football coach. Ultimate College Football HC is your place to be the head coach of Florida or Texas Tech or Florida State or Clemson. What I really love about the game, you're responsible for calling offensive plays during the games, as well as overseeing training camps and handling scholarships, control every crucial part of the program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free. No ads. 100% playable offline. Use code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game to receive a free boost to your program to make a strong start. Download the game. Visit ultimate-cfb.com. Ultimate-cfb.com. Or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy. And my friends, do it today. I was very impressed with the Big 12 this weekend. Here are the most impressive things that I saw. First, on Thursday, UCF becoming an unbelievable wrecking force running the football was stunning. They ran the ball for over 450 yards, and KJ Jefferson was a stud on the ground. 54 carries, 454. Good. Also on Thursday, Cam Rising, 5 touchdown passes. He was not as impressive as one of the guys that he was tossing them to, 3 of them going to Brant Keithy. When Rising needed a man, Brant Keithy was wide open. When Rising needed to complete a pass for a touchdown, Brant Keithy said, give me the ball. He is going to continually be the best, not just the best tight end in the country, but one of the best pass catchers in the Big 12, and maybe the entire. He is the Travis Kelce of college football this year. Brant Keithy, Cam Rising, good. I'm going to need to see more from him. For now, Brant Keithy, spectacular, and Dejon Stanley, hello, running back, catching the football for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Very, very good. For the Kansas Jayhawks on Thursday, Luke Grimm, my mom texted me, 6 receptions, 111 yards, and 1 touchdown. She was very impressed. I was very impressed. Loved what Shadur Sanders. And I like how from Jimmy Horn Jr. to Travis Hunter, how do you pick a favorite target for Colorado? The offense was just like that. Now it could use a little more consistency, a little less slop, a little more touchdown plays. 31 points is not indicative of how well Colorado played on offense. It should have been more around the 45 range, but 31-26, they got the win. For TCU, hello, my friends. Hello, my friends. Jack Beck's good. Josh Hoover's better. I don't know. I don't know what to do with this conference. There are so many good quarterbacks. And then Josh Hoover says, hey, Drake, do you mind if I throw for 353 yards, 2 touchdowns? What? And then I'll get to Jake Retzlaff, but Jake Retzlaff did the same thing. Said, hey, you mind if I just toss a little bit here? Now, look, Ted McMillan, who we will also talk about, had 300 yards receiving. That's impeccable for sure. And there were 3 quarterbacks who had more passing yards than Ted McMillan had receiving yards. Josh Hoover's one of them. Jake Retzlaff's another. That's absurd. Why those 2 guys? Wild. West Virginia, I'm trying to give a positive takeaway from every team. You guys looked good. You looked fun. You're having a lot of fun. Oklahoma State. Ollie Gordon did Ollie Gordon style things from a rubber meets the road. This is a tough game. We won 44-20, but it's not really telling of how good our opponent is. You hear that a team won 44-20 and you think, oh, they're just that much better. And maybe that is the case for Oklahoma State. But if you watch this game, Ollie Gordon had to earn it. The stat book doesn't lie either. 27 carries for 104 yards. That's not for 27 carries, 104 yards is not elite. What he said is, look, in a game where it's tight, in a game where the opposing team's good, I'm going to carry the football and help us win at all costs. Love it. Alan Bowman, 3 touchdowns, also good. Avery Johnson looked like a quarterback who's starting an opener for the first time. Bad? No. Great? No. DJ Giddens, similar to Ollie Gordon, did what he needed to do. Now, he only had 13 carries, had 124 yards. That was very good. And I like what Kansas State did. Impressed with the offense, 41-6. It felt like a Kansas State offense. We don't have to score in 2 plays every drive. We can become this complete team. The defense was elite. Loved it. Arizona, your defense was not. Your offense, the number one favorite thing I saw all weekend. Number one favorite thing. Ted McMillan. 10 receptions, 304 yards, and 4 touchdowns. How, buddy? How do you do that? Breaking records, broke the Arizona record, was like 7th in a single game receiving category for Arizona in the first half alone. And then now 2nd in the Big 12 all time in single game receiving yards, 304. Ted McMillan, take a bow. Brendan Sorsby for Cincinnati. Who are you? Where did you come from and how on earth did you do this? From him to the Pryor kid to Henderson, a wide receiver. How did Cincinnati? 38 points is really good. The defense against Towson wasn't as solid as I wanted it to be in the first half, especially second half. You locked it down. The offense slows down a bit. You kept pace of the game, and Brendan Sorsby threw for 383 yards. Josh Hoover, Brendan Sorsby, Jake Retzloff. Those guys led the Big 12 in passing this week? Yeah, with Shedeur Sanders, of course. Rocco Becht, yes. Solid. Cool. Abu Sama, need more. Jalen Noel's crazy good. I liked what Iowa State did. It just has to translate to points. It has to translate to points more consistently. DeQuan Finn for Baylor. That is your Ashton Hawkins good, but DeQuan Finn is your big. That's the big highlight and takeaway. 2 interceptions, not great. Watching this game back, I thought, Twitter seemed really high on DeQuan Finn. Is he actually going to be? Is this the quarterback of the future who you were promised? Could be. Still threw for under 200 yards. That's a true fact. It's the actual fact. And 2 interceptions. Needs to be more crisp against Utah on the road this week. Houston, you tried hard. You tried really hard, I think. Texas Tech, Tosh Brooks was good. I think 10 receptions from Josh Kelly was impressive. I don't know what else you want from me. BYU, yes. Everything about that, yes. Stunned me. 41-13 win at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. Jake Retzloff, 348 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Just yes. Chase Roberts, over 100 yards receiving. Just yes. Sam Levitt for Arizona State in the 48-7 win. Yes. To Scatabo. Yes. To Brown. Yes. That's why I'm so high on the Big 12 after what we just saw, because so many of these schools were impressive beyond what they were supposed to be. Iowa State was not. Texas Tech obviously was not, but BYU was, Arizona State was, even Arizona offensively was. Those things I liked. Who were the top Big 12 performers in week 1? Ted McMillan, obviously, but Jake Retzloff? To Brendan Sorsby? To Josh Hoover? Nicely done on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. I get tired sometimes, don't you? And when I do, I use 5 Hour Energy. It is the pick-me-up I need. 5 Hour Energy. The number 5hourenergy.com is your place to go right now for after lunch, tackling a to-do list before a workout, watching sports. Get in the zone. Zero sugar, convenient portable size, flavors like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and there is even more. 12-pack, 24-pack. Get it all at 5hourenergy.com. The number 5, hourenergy.com. Use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order. Cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. 5hourenergy.com today. Use the code as soon as you can at 5hourenergy.com. I want to say thank you. I'm going to use this portion of the show to say thank you to everyone at BYU who made my weekend spectacular, and everyone at Utah who also made my weekend spectacular. The kind folks at BYU gave me this shirt that says, hold my root beer. Royal Army brand was spectacular in helping cater to me. And I want to compare Rice-Eccles Stadium versus Lavelle Edwards Stadium. This hat as well from Royal Army brand. Those guys hooked me up all weekend. Utah is different from BYU, and BYU is different from Utah. I tweeted, I posted, I put a lot out there about the experience that I had on Thursday night for Utah. And I want to start there before I get into the absolute just special moment that I was given at BYU. At Utah, you were playing Southern Utah, who you played a million times before, who is an FCS program who is not very good. You're number 12 in the country. You cannot. And I'm very impressed with the Utes. They're my number 1 team in the Big 12 right now. I think they win the Big 12 championship. Sorry, BYU fans. You cannot continue to make an excuse and say, oh, we were playing an FCS school on a Thursday night. I've been to Tuscaloosa. I have been to Fayetteville, Arkansas. I have seen random bowl games, random home games, random Tuesday nights. I have seen that level of college football at the FCS, the FBS level. When you care about a school, when Auburn's playing in their home opener, when Arkansas is playing, when Missouri is playing, and they're top 15 in the country, even if it's perennial, you cannot use the excuse of, yes, our atmosphere was bad, our opponent was bad too. There's not an excuse to be used. When the players walk out, do you think they look around the field and say, yeah, well, of course our fans aren't showing up for kickoff and they aren't really going to fill the place and they kind of stink? Yeah, we're playing a stupid team. No, they want you there and the players deserve to have you there. Now, I do believe that BYU gives you that in all games for a different reason. And it's new now. I've learned in the last 10 years, even 7, 8 years, BYU or less, BYU has revamped their game day experience. For Utah, what I got was an atmosphere that was quiet, lackadaisical, felt like a Thursday night against an FCS opponent. I will not indict you, though. That is what I experienced, and I can't take it away. You can't be like, oh, well, that's not true, or here's the excuse, or here's the caveat. Maybe. But it doesn't. That's what I saw. I was sitting right there. I was in the stands. Oh, yeah, well, it'll be different. I'm sure it will be different for Baylor. I'm sure it will be. I'm sure Utah has an elite atmosphere, and they always win at home for a reason. I'm positive in that. But what I saw with my own 2 eyes was something different on Thursday. Now, I've seen BYU against Southern Illinois. And here's the excuse that I will give Utah fans. For you, a hodgepodge of a fan base. You have LDS community, you have non-LDS community, you have Utah fans. You're a national brand enough. You have some T-shirt fans that are just in there to see college football. I think that is awesome. I brought probably 7 or 8 buddies who all had consensus that it wasn't the SEC. It wasn't an atmosphere they were used to. It didn't feel like the opener of college football across the board. I don't speak for them. They don't host a podcast. They play for a baseball team, right? Get mad at them. It's just the way things were. However, the advantage BYU has is as the flagship program of the LDS community, there is an entire faith, one of the fastest growing faiths in the entire country that utilizes Saturdays as another version of fellowship and congregation. And that is not a bad thing for BYU. It's a darn good thing, but it is not the case for Utah, and that hurts the Utes. What BYU does is separate from what football is. What BYU creates in its atmosphere is better than what I saw in Tuscaloosa, Alabama for a top 10 matchup. So don't think in comparing Utah to BYU. They're rivals that deserve to be compared. Don't think in comparing you to BYU. It is a complete indictment on your program. There is just one of these 2 schools that has a leg up in something that goes far beyond the game. Utah didn't give that. I thought the facility itself, and I've seen Utah fans say this, needs an upgrade. A concourse is fine, sure. Where's the upper deck? Like, why am I sitting at the top of the stadium and I can see everything? Utah's a national championship contender, multi-time Pac-12. If you're gonna say that, fans have to show up at your stadium and say, this is a top-tier Big 12 stadium, not, oh, this is a good Mountain West stadium, or, oh, this is a low-end, middle-of-the-pack Pac-12 stadium. There were butts in seats, not during kickoff. I needed to see more from what Utah gave. Sorry. And I bet it will be against Baylor. I will come back and review it again later, but that's what I saw against Southern Utah. For you, BYU, the opportunity to join BYU Sports Nation Game Day, the opportunity to have this shirt on with a Hold My Root Beer on it from Royal Army. I am so impressed once again with how BYU fans, whether the team is good, they could have lost to Southern Illinois, with how BYU fans rally around the cause that is college football, how BYU fans pack out that stadium, how BYU fans had the most butts in seats of any Big 12 school and are picked consensus in the bottom 4 of the conference, but still had 63,000 people, more people, and I get its capacity thing, than West Virginia playing Penn State. A better atmosphere than anybody else, and no one can take that away from you. I am continually impressed with whether it's me seeing Baylor, who's a top 15 team, play there, or seeing Cincinnati, who was irrelevant last year, play there, or seeing Southern Illinois play there. BYU fans show up, and they are loud, and me saying that doesn't put dollars in my pockets, doesn't help me. It's the experience that I got this weekend going to 2 football games in the state of Utah, and I once again walked away from BYU saying, gosh darn, that place is different. That place does it different. You have committed, no matter how good or bad the team is, to making that atmosphere special. And I can tell you, when a recruit sees that, they're bought in. When a player walks on the field and sees that for every game they play in, they're bought in. For BYU players, they don't have to go to Twitter and see people scrolling and saying, well, it was an FCS school, we don't have to get loud, or, oh, come back later, we'll have a better atmosphere then, or, oh, well, we were just playing a cupcake team, so the atmosphere is just okay and we all left early. They don't have to see that because they know the fan base is still going to be there in the fourth quarter. They know the fan base is still going to be cheering them on throughout the duration of the game. That is not something that should put the rest of the conference down. It's something the rest of the conference should look at and say, that's the standard. How do we do it? That's what BYU does. The hospitality is spectacular. I mean, from Aubrey to Hema to Ben to everybody with BYU, to Spencer to everybody with BYU Sports Nation, Austin Collie, who's shotgun a root beer with me. That is one of the coolest experiences that I get every fall now. And I consider myself blessed, beyond blessed, to do it. That kind of hospitality from you, BYU fans, is special. And I can't wait to be back on BYU Sports Nation Game Day. It always gets me fired up to interact with BYU fans, interact with their game day crew, interact with the people of Provo, Utah, that make that a special place in college football that is better than Tuscaloosa, Alabama on a sold-out Saturday in a top 10 matchup. I can tell you, I've seen both. And BYU beats it out. And I'm not just saying that. I don't get any bonus to say that. It's what I've seen. Coming up tomorrow, Utah's the best team in the Big 12. What a great segue, right? Truly, I mean, they are. If we just hats off to them. We'll talk about that. I'll tell you why. On Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Wait, what? No, that's not how the outro goes. This has been, it always will be, Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. No se grande.